My name is Anne Lee Steele. I'm a graduate of the Anthropology and Sociology department here at the Institute, where I attended the program from 2019 through 2021. And I currently work in the field of AI at the Alan Turing Institute, which is the National Institute of Data Science and Artificial Intelligence in the UK. I entered the field of artificial intelligence quite accidentally, but I've always been interested in the relationship between humans and technology. In the years before I joined the Graduate Institute, I worked in the media lab of a think tank in Washington, D.C. I worked in immersive education as a data journalist, and I found that in all of these situations and in these environments, that I was often translating quite complex questions into ways that policymakers would be able to understand, in the way that everyday people would be able to understand, that students in their teens would be able to understand. And so many of those working environments really made me realize how important it was to be grounded in these kind of more fundamental questions about human behavior. And alongside that kind of grounding question, I was also really interested in what alternatives to the status quo look like. The status quo being the places of power that have, especially in recent history, determined how our technologies are made. And Geneva, to me, was that place where that might be possible. And so I, in many ways, found out about the Graduate Institute as being a really interesting kind of example of what a transdisciplinary, international, multilingual, transcultural educational institution might look like. And I really wondered, in a place like the Institute, would I be able to ask these fundamental questions about technology in places where they're not usually asked? And that's what eventually brought me to the Anthropology and Sociology department, because I was interested in that bidisciplinarity, that friction between difference. And I found it to be extremely fruitful and engaging. I'm a researcher and a community manager of a project called the Turing Way, which is based at the Alan Turing Institute. It's kind of a flagship, somewhat experimental resource that aims to create and collect best practices around how we use data, how we work around research ethics, how we think through these difficult questions by and with researchers. So it's almost kind of like a small Wikipedia for best practices. And as an anthropologist that works with computational researchers, I find that the perspectives that I was able to get from the Institute to be extremely valuable in this, because I always found myself translating between these different disciplines in the same way that I translate between computer science and ethnography now. And so much of that practice of translation also carries into the translatory work required to build the project that I'm a part of. We convene events that bring together different stakeholders. We provide collaborative environments that really aim to kind of shape how technology is made in a perhaps a more ethical way. And I found that, again, that the foundation really came from the sense of multilateralism and diplomatic engagement that I think Geneva and both the Institute have at their core.